Welcome back. In this video we're going to have a look at data types in Java. To start off, we first need to understand the concept of information, storage, and retrieval. Okay, so one core thing with computing, regardless of what you're doing, so if you're doing programming or databases or networking or anything like that, one of the core things to understand is that you have memory, okay? And you need to be able to store things into memory, your storage, and you also need to be able to get things from memory, which is your retrieval. Now, one thing that's important for us when we talk about types with this storage and retrieval is the fact that not all information is the same size, okay? So you can think of it as, for example, my height versus my name. These bits of information are going to be different sizes. So, for example, we might only want to store this amount of memory for my height, but we might want to store this amount of memory for my name. So we need to know how much information to store from the start, especially if we want to change this information later as well, and use it so that we don't need to change the size of the information. So then we've got the retrieval part. When retrieving the information, we also need to know how much memory to grab, because we don't want to grab too little or too much. We need to know to grab the right amount of information. And this is where our types come in. So with Java, we're going to start by having a look at our primitive data types. So we have primitive data types. And the first set of data types that we'll look at are the integers, okay? Okay, and this is probably one that a lot of students get confused about because they'll see the word int and think integer. Int is an integer, but it's not the only integer, okay? So all integer means is whole number, okay? And that includes negative numbers as well, okay? So integers are whole numbers, all right? And we have 4 data types that can store whole numbers in Java. So we have byte, short, int, and long. So these define the fact that we can store whole numbers in these, but we also can store different sizes of whole numbers. So the byte can hold whole numbers between 128 to 127, so negative 128, sorry. Short, negative 32,768 to 32,767. The int can hold numbers from negative 2 to the power 31 to 2 to the power 31 minus 1, and a long negative 2 to the 63 to 2 to the power 63 minus 1. Okay, so you can clearly see that the byte, it can hold whole numbers, but its range is a lot smaller. So it can only hold very small numbers. If you look at a long, it can also hold whole numbers, but a lot larger ones. So you can think of this as like a small box, and this is a very big box. But they can only hold whole numbers. Now, obviously, if you know for certain that you're only going to use very small numbers, then obviously a byte would be better for memory. But if you know you're going to be using very large numbers, then you would go with a long. However, when you're not sure, it's best in Java to default to an int, meaning if you're not sure, just choose an int as your data type for whole numbers. We then are going to have a look at another set of data types, and these are our floating point numbers. Now this means that you can have a decimal point, okay? So you can have numbers like 4.2, 8.77, and so on. Now you've got two data types that you can use. You've got float and double. And a float is a 32-bit floating point number, and a double is a 64-bit floating point number. We're not going to go into how this works in this video, maybe in a future video, but you can see that the double can hold a lot larger numbers, and it can also have a higher precision, so it means that it can have more numbers after the decimal point. Now, when you're not sure, in Java, always go with a double. Okay? The next data type that we'll look at is Boolean. Okay? And Boolean is a special data type that only has two possible values, which are true and false. And this can be really handy for things where you've got logic, okay, so if something's true or false. And this is a good way to think about memory, in that if you only need true or false, then just use a Boolean. The last primitive data type we have in Java is a char. Now a char is a special data type that holds 16-bit Unicode characters. Okay. So this means it holds different characters in it, such as the letter A, the lowercase letter A, the character 1, the character hash, and so on. So it can hold single characters in it, and these are our primitive data types that we can use in Java. Thank you.